Hello everyone, welcome to Java Academy. In this session, I'm going to discuss two topics with you. The first topic here is history and version of Spring Boot framework. The second topic is what we can do with Spring Boot or what all kind of the technology or framework I can integrate with the Spring Boot framework. So let's start with our first topic. And the first topic here is history and version of Spring Boot framework. And here, the first thing which we want to know who has developed this Spring Boot framework. So Pivotal was the company who has developed this Spring Boot framework. And the first release of the Spring Boot framework has come in the year of 2014. And this Spring Boot 1.x has been released after the 10 year of Spring 1.x release. So what does it mean? Spring 1.x has been released in the year of 2004. And once Spring Boot 1.x has come into the picture, that time Spring 4.0 was available in the market. Or I can say that Spring Boot 1.x has come after the Spring 4.0 release. So internally, the Spring Boot 1.x use all the dependency or jar which come from the Spring 4.0 itself. Now let's see what all the key feature available in Spring Boot 1.x. So the first key feature here is that is auto configuration. What is auto configuration? I will discuss with you after few of the classes. This is one of the topic and there we'll discuss about the auto configuration. For timing, I'm skipping this topic. And the second key feature here is embedded server. And as I told you in the last class, every Spring Boot application will come with some inbuilt server or the embedded server. And this feature is available from the first release of Spring Boot itself. So in the Spring Boot 1.0, there was a concept of Tomcat and JT as a embedded server. The last key feature here, which I have mentioned, that is the production ready features. So what does it mean? So sometime I want to know the health of my application. I want to know is my application is running fine or not. So how I can check the health of my application? Or if I want to know in which environment my application is running, how I will get to know? Or I want to know how many bean is running inside the container. So all these features is known as production ready features. And in Spring Boot, there is a concept of actuator. Again, what is actuator? That we'll see very soon. So based on actuator, you can easily able to achieve the production ready feature in Spring Boot. But the same thing, if you want to achieve in other framework, then you have to spend a lot of time and you have to go for a lot of manual configuration. One more important point here, the support for Spring Boot 1.x has been ended in the year of 2019. So now there is no more support for Spring Boot 1.x. In between, after the 4 year of Spring Boot 1.x, the Spring Boot 2.x has come into the picture. And before the Spring Boot 2.x, even Spring 5.0 has come into the picture. So this Spring Boot 2.x internally work on the Spring 5.0 itself or 5.x itself. So now let's see what all the key feature available in Spring Boot 2.x. So the first key feature here is support for the reactive programming. So before Spring Boot 2.x, we cannot able to create any project for the reactive programming. But Spring Boot 2.x onwards, we can able to create the project for the reactive programming as well. The second key feature of Spring Boot 2.0 is Kotlin language support. So even before Spring Boot 2.0, there was no support for the Kotlin language, but after Spring Boot 2.x, that is possible. And the last but not least, the Spring Boot has added one more embedded server, and the name of the server is Netty. So from Spring Boot 2.x, there are three embedded server or inbuilt server in Spring Boot framework. The one is Tomcat, the other is Jetty, and the third one is the Netty. And again, Spring Boot 3.x has released after the 4 year of the Spring Boot 2.x. So this Spring Boot 3.x has released in the year of 2022. And before this Spring Boot 3.x, Spring 6.0 has got released. So this Spring Boot 3.x internally work on Spring 6.0 itself. One more important point, if you want to develop or create any project based on Spring Boot 3.x, make sure you have the JDK 17 in your system. If you have the JDK version below JDK 17, then you cannot able to create or develop any project based on the Spring Boot 3.x. So the baseline of JDK, either it can be the JDK 17 or above version required if I want to develop any project on the Spring Boot 3.x. So let's see what all the key feature here available. So the first key feature, as I said, there is support for the JDK 17 and above. The second key feature here is support for Jakarta EE9. So what is the meaning of Jakarta EE? That I will discuss with you after a couple of classes. There I will develop some example, and there I will discuss what was earlier in Jakarta EE8 and what is the new in Jakarta EE9. And the last but not least, there is some enhancement in the security feature. So what is the changes in the Spring Boot 3.0 from the security point of view? That again I will discuss with you once I will start the security topic. There I will show you what was earlier and what is new in the Spring Boot 3.0. So now let's move to the next topic. And the next topic is what we can do with Spring Boot, or what all other technology or framework I can integrate with Spring Boot framework. So using Spring Boot, I can say that you can able to create any kind of the application. I mean to say you can able to create the REST application, or you can able to create the web application, or it can be the desktop application, or it can be the reactive programming. So you can able to develop all kind of the application. Now, if you want to integrate your REST application or web application with any of the database, either it can be SQL database or no SQL database, that is also possible in the Spring Boot. So here SQL database means I want to use Oracle database or MySQL database or DB2 database for my REST application or web application, or I want to use the NoSQL database like MongoDB or Cascada. That is possible in case of Spring Boot. Even if you want to integrate your Spring Boot application with Kafka for the messaging purpose, that is also possible. So you can easily able to integrate the Spring with Kafka, and I will show you how what is the process and how we can do that. Even suppose you want to do the batch processing, so that is also possible using the Spring Boot framework. If I want to deploy my application on the cloud, that is also possible based on the Spring Boot framework. And at the end, suppose you want to achieve the security features for your application, or you want to achieve the logging mechanism for your project, or even if you want to write the end-to-end test case for your project, that all the things you can easily want to achieve in the Spring Boot. And this is just some of the example. Even you can do more than this using the Spring Boot. Like again, suppose if you want to integrate your Spring Boot with other language like Kotlin, that is also possible. Even if you want to integrate the Spring Boot with the big data like Hadoop and all, that is also possible. So you can able to integrate most of the technology and framework using the Spring Boot without any problem. So this is all about for this video. In the next class, we'll see what all the features available in the Spring Boot, or what is the advantage of Spring Boot over the Spring framework.